Welcome to Compassionate Conversations, where we push the boundaries of comfort to empower you to become all that you dream of being. Hi everyone, I'm Esther Kane, Canadian psychotherapist and author. For over 25 years, I have helped thousands of highly sensitive people take back their power by owning their sensitivity and seeing it as a superpower rather than a mental health issue. To my great delight, I get to bear witness to these incredible transformations every day. For more information on the highly sensitive personality, please visit this page on my website to learn more, as well as how to assess whether you or a loved one is an HSP. If you are a highly sensitive person, you have probably struggled for most of your life believing that you were deeply flawed and didn't fit in. This can lead to internalized shame and self-blame about not being like most of the people around you. You are not alone. At least 20% of other humans across the globe have experienced that too, including me. The video you are about to watch is part of a series of interviews featuring some of my favorite highly sensitive people, or HSPs. We will take a deep dive into what it's like to be an HSP in a non-HSP world, as well as sharing tricks and tools that we've learned to accept our sensitivity and flourish in all areas of our lives. We hope you find these as helpful and life-changing as we do. The goal of this series is to emancipate, uplift, and empower highly sensitive people the world over. Join me and some other HSPs in this unique series in order to see that there are others just like you who experience the world in similar ways and have learned to navigate it powerfully and peacefully. Maryanne Pope is the author of A Widow's Awakening. This is the wonderful book. She also writes blogs, screenplays, and play scripts. She is the chair of the John Petropoulos Memorial Fund and CEO of Pink Gazelle Productions, Inc. You can find her information in the show notes. She also happens to be one of my closest and dearest friends for over 20 years. Welcome, Maryanne.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Esther.
This is going to be fun.
It is.
The first person I thought of for this topic. So I'll go through an outline of what we're going to cover today in this interview. So basically, we are both highly sensitive people, but we're very different highly sensitive people. So we're going to talk about those differences. But what we do have in common is our abhorrence of noise. We both have high sensitivity to noise, different noises, but we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to introduce a concept called soundries, which is the combination of the word sound and boundaries mixed together, soundries. It is not mine, but stay tuned for more on that. And then we're going to have Maryanne's story of figuring out what her soundries are and how she can, best navigate those. And my story then of figuring out my soundries and how I navigate those. And then the last part will be our top tips for creating and maintaining your own personal soundries. So whether you're listening to this or watching this, we want to teach you how to deal with noise sensitivity as a highly sensitive person in the world of non-sensitive people, mostly non-sensitive people. So we begin with the discussion of how Maryanne and I are very different, highly sensitive people. Now, Maryanne, I didn't think you were a highly sensitive person until a number of years ago, because you're so, in my view, extroverted, and I'm more introverted. So we know from Elaine Aron's research, she's the creator of this whole concept of the highly sensitive person, researching it for the past 40 plus years, that 30% of HSPs are actually extroverts. So that kind of shocked me. So that's when I thought the ball dropped for me. I thought, well, then Maryanne fits that just fine. So what made me think that you were an introvert is the main characteristic of not introverts, highly sensitive people, is that a highly sensitive person, we gain our energy, like recharge our batteries. We plug in by being alone and being quiet. And that's you. You're a writer, you live alone, you need lots of time alone.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious because you've known me for over 20 years too.
Mhm.
And what do you think our differences are in terms of being highly sensitive people?
Well, I think for sure the introvert extrovert piece is the biggest, I would say. So you are definitely more introverted in terms of let's do the crowd of people test. So let's say you go into a party, that's not your cup of tea, right? Look, I just saw the shimmer there. Whereas I have no problem. I go into a big party, I don't know a soul, I can meet everyone, or if I do know a soul, I can just chat up and see everyone and stuff, and I can be fully on. Both of us would take probably the same amount to recover from that, though. I mean, I can't say for sure for you, but that would definitely take its toll on me. But I have no problem doing that, and I can thrive. But it does, it will exhaust me. So I definitely have to be alone again to recharge. So
Yeah.
that's for sure the introvert. So I see that side of things. I'm in terms of the highly sensitive person. I mean, I am. When you first told me about this highly sensitive, I it took a lot of educating me to understand that. And I thought by sensitive meaning that it was to do with a thick skin versus a thin skin, right? What someone says to you.
Hmm.
So I tend to think of myself as quite tough and rough and very, very thick skin because I have all these brothers that I grew up with.
And she's an Albertan girl, people. She grew up in
Yes.
Alberta. She
Yep.
drove trucks. I mean, this is a tough girl.
Yeah, and I kind of had to be in life, right? And I think, I am pretty tough in that way. But now I realize, no, that's not really what, a highly sensitive person is. It's more being attuned to the noise and the bright lights and needing a lot of time to recoup and things. And, you can explain much better than I can to people exactly what HSPs are if you get into that. But I would say in terms of the differences between us is that definitely it's the extrovert and the introvert. I mean, I'm truly an extrovert, but I just need a ton of time to recover. Where we have the commonalities though is the sound. I mean, you are very much like me. If we're sitting somewhere and someone is screaming nearby or a siren goes by, I mean, it's just like, okay, that was felt like that is very, very intrusive to us, and we very much feel it, and it really is irritating beyond perhaps what a person who's non-highly sensitive would be able to handle. So
Yeah.
they wouldn't be so impacted, sorry, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that about commonalities about us. But I think, it's interesting. We've kind of, like, you and I have been friends for 20 years, and a lot of the times that we've spent together have been very, very one-on-one. We'll do a weekend, just 2 or 3 of us. So we have learned, right? We both need that downtime, and this kind of in-depth conversation is another aspect that we have in common. And I suspect that would be a highly sensitive person trait as well too.
It is. We like deep, meaningful conversation.
That's right. Like if we were to just shoot the shit, chit chat and stuff for hours, it would, first of all, neither of us would be interested in doing that. And secondly, it would probably just absolutely kill us. A, we'd be bored, and B, we'd be so mentally exhausted. Yeah, exactly. So we need that depth of conversation, but then we have to go to our own little sections and fill that cup up again, on our own. So I'd say there's a lot of commonalities, but I'm definitely more like, I would say, and just partly because of the life experience I've had, definitely more like screaming and yelling and filled with family gatherings. You know what I mean? I come from a big family, lots of family gatherings, and and big parties, and I've had to go socialize with literally hundreds of people who want to speak with me one-on-one. And I'm not going to lie, that's extremely exhausting, but I can do it. Whereas you, I don't know. I'm not sure you would want to do it.
Worst day of my life, best and worst day of my life, my wedding.
Your wedding, yes.
The wedding, best day because I married the right person. So that was a win.
Yes.
But the downside is I hated the whole thing of being around all those people, the center of attention, cringe, and all the focus and smiling all day and putting this plaster face on it. I had to recover for a week. I just slept for 3 days after. But I think the other difference between you and I, and then we'll get into the noise thing, is that I think you have way more energy to you. I think I call you Tigger. Because you're just like, woo,
Yeah.
woo. You have so much energy, but you crash. Like you sleep hard when you fall asleep. You're out. I've tried to wake you up and you're just out in the world. Yeah. So I feel like I don't have as much energy, which you make me jealous. It's so fantastic. I mean, I love watching you. You're just
I
a
don't think
delight.
there would be many people on the planet that would have the energy level that I have.
I-
I'm like Rob Lowe on Parks and Rec. I mean, it's
You're
absolutely
unbelievable.
insane. Yeah,
I've
it
never
is.
seen
It
anything
is.
like it in my life. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
well, and you know, and that's just, I mean, it's a blessing. I'm glad I'm healthy and I've got it, but I have to be very careful to direct it properly. Otherwise, it's like, whoa, you
Yeah.
become manic almost, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
getting to the noise thing, I just want to do a brief HSP 101 for people listening and watching this. And that is basically, so Elaine Aron, she wrote a seminal book. It's called The Highly Sensitive Person, How to Thrive in a World That Overwhelms You. I'll have that in the show notes. She's fantastic. Her website is hsperson.com, and she has a plethora of stuff. I'm actually doing a course right now that is her. It's called Psychotherapy and the Highly Sensitive Person. It's phenomenal. It's blowing my mind. So basically, highly sensitive people, we make up 15 to 20% of the population, so we are a minority. Being a highly sensitive person is not a mental health issue. It is a sensory issue. It's a nervous system situation. It's a temperament. So we are born with different nervous systems. So our nervous systems are highly aroused most of the time. I describe it sometimes as having my skin inside out. Everything sticks to me. So all the five senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, are just amplified for us. Yeah, so we tend to react more. We tend to be called serious. You know, we have this sort of furrowed brow a lot. We look like a French philosopher, you know, and we can be called very serious. We can be, I was told I wasn't fun, that we're awkward, that we don't fit in. We're not team players. That was my other favorite thing I got called. You're not a team player. No, I don't even know what a team is, but the sound of it is horrible. It just doesn't appeal to me. And we the main thing is that we get our energy, recharge our batteries by being alone and by being quiet and kind of just, we need a lot of time to filter information. So, okay, so let's talk about the noise thing. So according to Dr. Elaine Aron, highly sensitive people have an even greater susceptibility to noise compared to non-HSPs. This is because we process information more thoroughly, are more easily stimulated, are more aware of subtle stimuli, are more empathic, and have higher emotional reactivity. So the HSP nervous system gets ramped up, always taking in information and stimuli in a variety of ways. And in this case, auditory information on the way to the brain becomes augmented. Often it can be too much to bear for the hyperstimulated HSP. Okay, so this is why I love the word boundaries. So this is not my idea. The idea for this particular episode came to me while listening to the podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, by Glennon Doyle, fabulous writer who wrote the book Untamed. You wrote about that book, I believe, Maryanne. You can find it on Maryanne's
Yeah, I did a blog about it. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, me too. And I wrote about it as well. We'll put links to that on the show notes. And so this, I'll also share the link to this particular podcast episode. It was called Pet Peeves. What do our biggest annoyances say about us? It's hysterical.
It is.
It's a conversation between Glennon Doyle and her partner, Abby, and then her sister, who is Nika Man, they're hilarious. So they talk about their biggest pet peeves. And so Glennon explains that her pet peeve is sound boundaries, which she called soundaries. And when I heard that, I nearly peed my pants laughing. And I immediately texted to you, Maryanne, because I thought, you have to hear this. I was in Hawaii at the time. So here's the little quote I have. I've just sort of cut and paste bits that she said that just cracked me up. She said she described boundaries that people need to have. She said, people who just speak in a voice that is so loud in general public spaces where people have no auditory yield, using voices that encroach upon other people's space. It is as if you have auditorily slapped me. So she felt like someone slapped her in the face, just hearing them. She said it's noise pollution. I have always been a highly sensitive person, so noise makes me feel as if I have been attacked by enemy fire. And she joked about her partner sneezing, that when her partner sneezes, it's like she has a mini heart attack. And God, I can relate to that. She also talked about when people ring the doorbell, and she just feels completely violated and invaded when someone rings her doorbell. If she's not expecting somebody, it just throws her right off. So I think you and I, Maryanne, have react to different types of noise. I have a theory about it, but mine is definitely people noise. And I think yours is outside noises like traffic and machines. But can you tell us the story of how you figured out your boundaries? Because you have quite a story.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few different stories I could get into, but let's start with the Sydney incident, living in Sydney. So let's see, my husband died when we were 32. And so I stayed in the same city. Then 10 years later, I finally got the wherewithal to leave and go, okay, now I'm going to start the next chapter of my life. I was a little late on that, but I finally left. And so I just had in my mind that it would be kind of idyllic, and it was like near the ocean, and it was kind of like, okay, everything's ticked off. It was a little old bungalow. I had my little old dogs, and I was going to be a writer by the sea. Well, the universe had other plans, and the people next door to me were the loudest people. Were absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it was.
I witnessed it. It was horrific.
It was brutal, and so it went on. I'm embarrassed to say this because I'm just shocked that I stuck it out for so long, but the market did drop for a little while. So there was financial reasons, but
there was a cute house too. You had
it was a cute house, but it was insane. So anyways, there'd be like, the girl was a young mom, and there was a lot of screaming and yelling between mom and dad, and then there was one kid, and then another kid came along. Then there was this bass, and she would play when he went to work from 8 till 4. She would crank up her stereo. So all I heard with my earplugs and my earphones, I was trying to write next door, was this boom, 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 like all day. Like my nervous system was so shot, and then just going out in my backyard and puttering, like my dream of pruning roses and stuff, gone. I was a wreck. And so then she moved out for a while, and then he started up a business that used a bandsaw and the world's noisiest things next door. And sometimes I'd be sitting outside or inside, it didn't matter, or wherever I was trying to hide, and there would be like a bandsaw, and then next door, a leaf blower.
Do the sound. What's a bandsaw sound like?
That kind of, I don't even know if it's a bandsaw, but it's that kind of thing. And it was just like, it just grated on me. It would be fine if it was just one off. There was one time I was sitting there in the yard, I had friends over, and he cut the entire yard. He didn't have a lawnmower, so he didn't go borrow a lawnmower. He used his weed whacker to mow the lawn. That was this lawn. Oh yeah, it was hours and hours of the weed whacker going. So again, like, and again,
also not the brightest bulb in the pack.
Well, no, definitely not the brightest bulb. And it was just so noisy and loud, and kids were screaming and stuff. And this went on for 7 years. But so I developed my boundaries. My boundaries were like, okay, now I know. But I think the most important thing to share about this is with other people, because we all get noisy neighbors. And I don't know, I did talk to them. That's a whole other fiasco story. It was better, but it didn't get much quieter. I think the most important thing though is to know 7 years passed, but this is part of the story that I want to share, is that what I did was I confided to people, all sorts of people. Some people are like, oh my gosh, well, you need to talk to the neighbor, because everyone has their viewpoint and ideas on how to deal with noisy neighbors.
Right.
But I kind of listened to people who had a vested interest in me staying in that community. So in hindsight, I probably should have taken a loss and moved out after year 1 and not listened to other people. And I think that
7 years is more than a
yeah, 7 years is more than enough. And it wasn't until the rats moved into my crawl space that I finally said, okay, that's enough. And of course, then I ended up doing fine financially. But
what's the sound of a rat crawling in your crawl space?
Yes. There's nothing like that. Oh, it was the rats, the sound of them crawling up the like the fireplace when it wasn't on. It was incredible. Oh yeah, it was just amazing. That kind of ended badly, but it makes a very good play. So that play script is in the works. But it brings me to noise pollution number 2, which is this is hilarious, but I think some of the biggest noise pollution, I mean, that's kind of comical and that was really bad and I wish I left sooner, but equally big noise pollution is listening to people who are whispering in your ear that are maybe telling you what's not in your best interest, but what's in their best interest. So I think I want to raise that point that,
bad advice, noise pollution.
Yes, it's just like bad advice, noise pollution. And people, like, you have to really think, like, wait a minute, is this person, you know what I mean? Because I did have people who wanted me to stay, and I get that because it was friends, but it's like, holy smokes. Because now that I finally found the courage to leave, the universe, I think, rewarded me by giving me this beautiful, knock on wood, quiet, beautiful, gorgeous garden. And now I'm like, this is what I wanted, and this is what I need. And my nervous system is very, very thankful, because as funny and comical as it is, I really should have moved a lot sooner. Whether I took a hit from selling the house or not, in some ways it doesn't care. Your peace of mind, is top priority. And sound matters to people. Like, I'm a writer, I need sound, and I'm a writer who needs silence. And so I wear a lot of ear protection, which also begs me to the next point about noise protection, noise pollution, is that because I wear so much ear protection, when I go out into the big bad world, noise doesn't just impact me as a highly sensitive person, noise also impacts me because I have extremely sensitive hearing. So it's tough. It's a very, very loud, noisy world. However, one more point, and then it's your turn, Esther, is that I have to be perfectly candid, is that whoever's listening or is watching this may notice I am not the quietest person on the planet.
She is not. She's the loudest person in the restaurant, and we've been shushed.
I am the loud.
You've been shushed.
Boisterous. I have been shushed. I have friends that'll say, can you keep it down? My brother will remind me. I get so excited and so boisterous and so energetic and passionate. That's just who I am. But I am the loud person, and I have to remember that. So that is something that I am working on. But it's really interesting. So Esther, you would not want to be sitting with me in a restaurant unless you were with me, and you could, tell me to keep quiet. But if you were like a patron,
I'm too anxious to do that. I would never do that.
Oh, well, I was just in Paris with a friend, and she would remind me. She's like, just keep it down. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. I need that. You know what I mean? It's I don't mind people saying that to me. And my brother does it all the time. It pisses me off, but it's good. It reminds me. But anyways, I think it's just hilarious that I'm so funny about noise, and yet I am a very loud person. But that goes to show we're all a little bit different, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So go on, your turn. Let's hear about your noise. Your soundries. What happened?
Yes, my soundries. Well, I am definitely I'm gonna not look at myself. It's easier. I'm just playing with things here. Okay, so I have always been hyper sensitive to noise. Although I was a colicky baby, so I screamed constantly. And and I was a pretty tough kid, but I was very sensitive to noise, and my dad's like that. My dad is so sensitive to noise. He's like, what's that noise? So I think I get that from him. But mine's people noise. I can listen to, so my husband's the same as you, Maryanne. You're good friends with Nathaniel, my husband. And he is like you. It's the saw things, circular saws and outside noise drives him bonkers, and he wears the noise canceling headphones. I don't even notice that. Honestly, I don't notice the really loud outside sounds.
Wow.
It's people noise. I cannot stand hearing people chew, hearing their bodily fluids moving around. So mucus, oh God, if someone's got a snotty nose, it just really irks me. If they sniff, if I'm listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video and someone keeps saying the same word over and over again, that's a non-essential word, and I'm probably using them all over the place now, that drives me crazy. And people partying in the backyard, that's my thing. And you and I have talked about this. I need when I'm out there now, I do my sunbathing for 20 minutes a day. I put in earbuds and I listen to a podcast as loud as I can because I cannot stand. It's not the noises, it's the people sound. It's not the, chair scraping or, even music doesn't bother me that much. It's people noise. It's the talking and I don't want to hear the conversation. I just don't want to hear. And children screaming, no offense to children, it's not their fault, but they have that little shriek at a certain age. It's just that high pitched squeal. Oh my God, that really, nails on a chalkboard. And just, and animal noise. Yeah, that really bothers me too. So dogs barking loudly, cats meowing incessantly. And I had cats and they would drive me crazy with their noise. I remember one incident in particular when I was 19 or 20 in university, and you're supposed to be partying and everything. And I was in bed by like 11, and I was an A+ student on the honor roll. And these fools would come in who'd been partying all night and they were drunk and they were loud. And I'd go out there like a maniac in my nightgown, just screaming abuses at them, saying to keep quiet. And there's people trying to sleep. And it was like, I was supposed to be one of them. At the time, I didn't really get that. And I kind of wish in retrospect, I was a little more fun, but I did do well in school and I have a good career as a result. But anyway, that was my high sensitivity. And just people yelling close by my ear, I think, and hearing people and their conversations on their cell phones. That's why being on public transport, I know it's better for the environment, and I just can't do it. It's if I have to do that, I have to have a headset on. It drives me crazy. Those are my sounds. Yeah, people yelling is a big one. Yeah, but even tickles in people's throats and stuff, and if they're clearing their throat, oh my God, it drives me crazy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but what can you do about that? Tell us what you do if Nathaniel is chewing too loud. What's your trick?
Yes. Oh God. Well, poor guy. He just cottoned on to this. We've been together almost 24. How many years is it? We got married in 2000 by his choice so that I could remember how long we've been married, because math is not my strong point. But I think we're coming up to 24 years of being together. It's 25. I think it's coming up to 25. My gosh. Anyways, he just realized that when I turn the tap on really, really low at the sink, it's not because I'm rinsing dishes. It's because he's not finished picking his teeth after a meal. But he just figured that out. But the sound of his chewing, but it's not just him, it's anybody chewing. So white noise is my trick. I have air filters on because I've got allergies, so that's a built-in excuse. I even have white noise machines. I have put a fan on in another room to drown it out. I just need another sound. Like right now, I've had to turn my air filter off to do this interview, and I'm going insane inside my nervous system right now. Because I can hear all the other stuff that if it's too quiet, I go crazy.
Oh, now that's interesting.
Yeah. So.
No, not me. You could never be quiet enough. I would be just fine in solitary confinement.
Yeah. Oh wow. Well, I don't know. It's just because
I don't know if it's quiet in there or not.
I think perfect quiet is fine, but then if the least little noise occurs, my equilibrium is thrown off. So I'd rather just have a constant hum in the background.
Interesting.
But we can get into that more later when we talk about it. Well, we're kind of getting to our top tips of creating and maintaining our own personal boundaries. So Maryanne, what have you? Well, I know that one thing you did is you moved up island to a smaller community. You got a house that is blessedly quiet. It's unbelievable. It's so peaceful. I just want to move in with you. Your backyard is quiet. I know. Pray for that lasts. Yeah. So you said that you waited too long to make the move, but then when you did, it was so. Tell us what happened from then on when you moved.
When I moved, well, I was gypsy for 18 months and I was
Yes.
a bit gun shy, I suppose, to purchase a new home or rent a new home because I was
Oh,
so
and
scared.
tell me just a second, tell people what it was like to be a gypsy for a year and a half. I mean, how did that work with your Soundry situation?
Oh, well, good, because I have such good personal ear protection. That's the key, right? So
Yeah.
I lived with a house full of kids and dogs and mom and dad, and it was insane. But it didn't bother me at all because they were gone during the day. And then, in the mornings when I was working and they were getting all hullabalooed out, to get breakfast and stuff, I just have my earplugs and then I wear earphones over top. Yeah, and I can manage that pretty good if I'm in my own little room, if it's quiet. But it was just more the machinery noise that gets through that if you can't get
Yeah.
away from it, that is brutal. So
Ah.
no, I was fine there. And then I would just stay at different people's houses and I didn't have many more sound issues. And so I took the plunge and got a place up island here. And it was lovely. It was really good. And I'm still in that place, obviously, but it was really good to have a nice quiet place. But in terms of tips, like, I mean, I was going to say too, like, water fountains in the yard, and I have a water fountain inside too, but I wouldn't say it's a huge sound thing. I don't really have the white noise thing. Me, it's just the blocking out of the sound when I'm working.
So like on your person, so
Yep, in
earplugs,
my person, absolutely.
earphones.
Yeah,
What kind
yeah,
of
for sure.
earphones do you use?
Well, I use construction ones, but I like just I've got them right here, but they're just like what you'd wear on a construction site. I just bought them at, a hardware store. But because that works well with earplugs underneath for me, that seals it enough. But I did try my friend's noise canceling headphones in Paris. And I'm like, whoa, so that might be an investment that I'll get. And then if I do earplugs inside with the ear canceling on top, oh my God, it'd be amazing. Because as I say,
Yeah.
it can't be too quiet for me. I have no problem. I would never work with background music or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
I think in terms of people listening to this, if they're looking for tips, it's such a trial and error thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out what
Everybody's
works
different.
and what doesn't. And for me, like going back to the highly sensitive person aspect of it, is that when I am around a bunch of people, like I just had uh 6 people in my home, including me, and it's a little home, for 4 days, and it was nonstop. It was just like we were partying and drinking and going out and doing things and stuff. And that, Esther, I know you wouldn't do that. That would not be good. I did great. I had a
No.
really fun time because I put work on hold. I didn't try to do
Yeah.
anything else, and I had my bedroom, and that to me, that's what I could call a soundry. So I went in my bedroom, and if they needed to use the bathroom, that's great, they did. But people left me alone. They know that I need my downtime and my space, and I would sleep
So
10 to 12
you're
hours.
talking about training people. You have to train people.
Oh, you absolutely have to train people. And I need a lot of rest because usually when I'm working, I need a lot of rest. But even if I'm around a lot of people, I not need a lot of rest because my nervous system is totally on high alert, right? Like when I'm around people, I find it very, very stimulating, like you'd said. Plus, I am a very good listener, as you know. I listen very, very intently. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not daydreaming. I am fully intent. And that kind of listening is exhausting. So
you're
if
like the Dalai Lama. I'm reading a book about the Dalai Lama, and he's totally present.
Totally present.
You are like that. You're just, it's almost unsettling.
Well, it's a gift you can give people, right? Because in a world where everyone's like, oh my God, that's fascinating what you're saying, but I've got to go, or I've got to look at my phone, or they just jump in and talk about themselves. So I try really hard, because that was the greatest gift to me when I was younger, grieving, was someone listening to me fully and present and saying, okay, and asking questions and doing the active listening thing, right? So I try to give that to people as a gift, but it's exhausting, right? Like that takes a lot of energy. That is your work, Esther. Like that's what you do all day. See, so I could not do your job. It would absolutely, I don't know how I would recover.
Well, you'd have to. I don't talk to anyone at night. I turn my phone off. I turn everything off, and I just collapse and read and knit and don't talk.
That's right. And just fill that cup up again for the next day.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, just like the boundaries, it's the same with the boundaries. You have to do that. However, like in that podcast with Glennon Doyle and her gang there, it's like sound is a bit tricky because sound is infiltrating. Like, if you're next to a noisy neighbor, or you've got someone who chews loudly at dinner every night, these are tough things to get away from, and they can really wear and tear on relationships. So it is really important to have a lot of tools in your kit. And I want to touch on something else that I've been thinking a lot about. when I said, when other people said things that weren't particularly helpful, I mean, we all have people in our life who will say things and, we could call it noise pollution. But what I'm challenged with right now is learning to not take on those comments or those things that are in your head, because noise pollution isn't just outside, right? It's not just
Yeah.
people, it's not just chewers. It's
It
also,
can be our own thinking. What about our own thoughts?
that's it. Now, and
Our
that
own
is the trick to be able to get away from, right?
the itty bitty shitty committee inside our head.
Yes, I love that. I love that, but I don't love that. I do not like the
Terrible.
Individuality Committee. But
Yeah.
that's the biggest noise pollution of all. And why do you think people want to be talking so loud? Why do you think people are looking at their phones?
Because they don't want to hear the voice in their head.
Exactly. That's right. So that's the biggest noise pollution to deal with. And that's where the meditation, right? And and focusing on the breathing and all that stuff comes in. But holy smokes, it's interesting. Like, I know it's external noise we're talking about, but it's so much more than that. Like, it really is, because a big part, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a big part of why noise irritates us so much, there's the HSP element, absolutely, the physiological thing that's going on with us with our highly sensitive nervous system. But there's also the aftermath, because there's and this is what the podcast talked about, the Glennon Doyle podcast, there's the lack of respect, there's of people who are talking and they don't care about the impact of their noise and their actions on other people. So us as the recipients of that have to go in our mind and have to be able to process that in a healthy, good way, and not take it, like Buddha says, if you're angry at someone who's been loud and noisy, you're the one who's holding the hot coal. You have to drop it. Easier said than done. But that external noise pollution becomes internal noise pollution.
Well, and the other piece of that, I would say, Maryanne, is that I don't think people do things not most people, unless you're a complete psychopath or sociopath, but most people do not do something to harm someone else. So if someone's being loud and obnoxious, they probably don't even know what effect they're having on others. And if you're a non-sensitive, a non-HSP, you might be one of those people, you're just loud and boisterous and you have no idea how it impacts someone like us, which is like, hitting us on the head with a 2x4. So, I think there's also a piece of educating, where I'm learning to say things that are very, very difficult that just would have made me want to throw up before, but because I'm feisty 50s now, these things just come out of my mouth. I'll say, could you please keep it down a bit? I'm trying to think.
And you would say that, hey?
I have said it. Yes. Yes. It's very weird that I say it now because that's not who I used to be, but it's this hormonal shift that's happening where it's just like, I just don't give a shit anymore. And it's like, I deserve to be in a good space as well. And, sharing this space, this public space together. So, within reason though, I have to watch myself because I can be too assertive about that kind of stuff because I'm so sensitive. I don't want to override their, and hurt someone else. It's hard.
I know, that's right. And you can't control the world. It's impossible. You can just do the best you can to make your peace of mind intact. Can I ask you one quick question? What are your thoughts on the noise pollution of when you're with someone and they're not just texting on their phone, but they've left the volume on? Ding, 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 ding. Every time a notification comes. I don't know what to do with that, other than grab the phone and throw it out the window.
Depends if they're staying in your home. Were they staying with you?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, like whether I'm staying with them or wherever I am, or they're staying with me or whatever. That's the norm. People, like, I would never have my phone volume on unless I'm expecting a call. But a lot of people do that. They are so, or they have a job that needs to know. I don't know, whatever it is, or family members. It's not my place to judge. My question to you is how do you handle that? Do you just like go, oh, okay, like, because if you speak up, then that's kind of rude, and if you don't speak up, then you get irritated, or or do you just like, because I don't want to become that person where I'm like trying to control other people. It's not going to work anyway.
No, I think you need to take it on a case-by-case basis. But if I'm seeing a client and their phone is going off or dinging, I'll ask them to turn off their notifications or the ringer, and not answer their phone. That's just, to me, basic common courtesy when you're in a professional appointment. And if they choose to take a call, which they sometimes do, then you're losing time on a very expensive session you're paying for me. And I just sit there and wait. But yeah, if it's someone staying in my home and it's just constant, I might say, that sound, it's as if it's an alarm bell when I hear that. In my nervous
Because it is, yes.
it's making me have a little mini panic attack every time it beeps. So do you mind turning that? And they're usually completely oblivious and they say, oh my God, I know, sure. And they just turn it off, but then I recently was staying in someone's home and, they're on the phone and everything's beeping and dinging and it's their home. So I don't feel like I have a leg to stand on in terms of saying something.
Fair enough.
Because I'm choosing to stay with them. If I'm not comfortable, I need to stay somewhere else.
Yeah. Fair enough. It's become a very, very noisy world, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And I think the public conversations, and there's people, and I understand not wanting to have a cell phone next to your ear because it's bad for your brain. And I don't do that either. But I put earbuds if I'm going to have a conversation. But I can't understand, as a highly sensitive person with a sound thing, why people have conversations in public on cell phones that we can hear. Like they have it on speakerphone. I just think that's such a private thing. Why would you have the world listen to your conversation? But many people don't think twice about it, and that really bothers me.
Did you hear, do you remember the part of the Glennon Doyle podcast when they're like, and part of the problem with that is that then your brain is invested in that conversation and you want to know how
and you
ends.
want to hear how it turns out because we're storytellers and we understand things through stories. So we need to hear the beginning and the middle of an end and the end of a story, even if it's a story we don't care about. So that's what happens. We get wrapped into these vacuous conversations we don't want anything to do with. But then, like my husband today said, so-and-so, some influencer on some podcast we listen to says this and this about, something. And I looked at him, I said, I don't give a shit. And he just started laughing and we just started laughing because it's like, why do we care what
why do we care?
Self-proclaimed influencers are saying? If I ever call myself an influencer, cancel me, okay?
That is a very good question. And this matters because
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, as again, noise is noise. It's so many different elements to this topic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered some wonderful ground here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Maryanne. I'll have the show notes at Maryanne's information. She's fantastic and interesting and amazing, and writes.
As are you, darling.
Oh, you have so many good blog posts. I just love them. I read them.
Well, thank you so much, Esther. You're amazing. I appreciate all you do. Keep going. This is fantastic.
Thank you, Maryanne.